This is Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free. Hello, Otterites. This is episode 247.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Andre.
All right, gentlemen, we are here for our second episode today, episode 247, and it is Code of Honor.
So we miss you, Francis.
Yes, Francis is still at the conclave.
He's been called to Rome again. He's putting out the donuts and the coffee for the Cardinals as a symbol,
and being just general gopher because that's what deacons do.
Yeah,
paying for hookers,
and he's good at it. So,
the being a gopher.
Okay, yeah.
Not good at the paying.
And
at least I presume he's not. I hope he's not.
Hold that thought.
Yeah, and Cajun is, we believe, still in the Gulf of America somewhere, in an island he believes to be in international waters, establishing a pirate kingdom.
That's right.
With Mrs.
So yes,
Cajun.
he is in the Sea of Cajun in the middle of the Gulf of America.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. He'll like that.
Yes.
I like
he
that.
will like
Let's see if
that.
he listens to the episode.
Oh, the Sea of Cajun in the Gulf of America.
That's right. It's international waters.
Holy shit. That's awesome. That might just be the bourbon talking, but damn, boy, that was funny.
That was good. That was good. I occasionally have a good one.
Yeah.
So we're doing Code of Honor. We're here back in Studio R in the man cave.
Mm-hmm.
And we do miss our brothers.
But it is good to have Brother Andre back with us.
But it is good to have Brother
he's
Andre
missed
back.
an episode or two, and
Yes.
so very, very good to have him.
I was busy in Canada laying out invasion plans.
Mm-hmm.
I still say it's a 5-minute job. I mean, we could get drunk and do it, the four of us.
I mean,
I took a bottle of Kentucky bourbon to Canada. They kicked me out.
Canada, America's hat.
That's right.
I mean, why would you want them to be the 51st state? You know what kind of weather they have. I mean, shit.
Right. I mean, we've got Minnesota and
I mean,
all of the.
it would allow them to win a hockey, the Stanley Cup again, basically.
Oh, that's true.
You
That's
know,
true.
Because then it wouldn't matter anymore about no Canadian teams won the cup in a while.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, anyways, so Canada, that's on the back burner for now.
Yep.
But maybe we should go to Greenland and prep the invasion there.
Canadians with their beady eyes and flappy heads.
Flappy heads.
Round bacon.
Hats,
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah,
No,
ham.
no, floppy heads.
Okay,
Never
whatever.
seen. It's a South Park thing.
Oh, I didn't watch a whole lot of South Park, just here and there. But yeah, that round bacon thing, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
called ham.
It's ham.
It's Taylor ham.
It's ham. Oh my God, that's the first thing I hope. So if we do take it over as 51st state, we need an executive order banning Canadian bacon.
Well, to be fair, the takeover, you're halfway there. Taking over Canada.
I'm waiting for the punchline.
No, you're half Canuck.
Oh, you.
Unofficially, yes.
So you're halfway to taking it over.
Yes, me down here in Kentucky having half of that heritage, I'm practically running the country.
Well, nobody
Anyway,
else is.
I mean,
Nobody else is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's
I
true.
don't think we could make it, the 50. You'd have to break it up.
I think you have to be 51 through 60.
Yeah, it would have to be the provinces. It would all have to be individual.
Well,
Yeah,
but
then they would
they-
have too much say in Washington,
Well,
too many electoral votes.
And that is a
Alberta.
thing, yes.
Alberta is trying to rescind. They're about to get a thing on the ballot.
To do what?
To
leave,
secede.
to leave Canada and apply for
Yes.
statehood.
It's over 50% approval in the polls. 53%. Yeah.
I wonder if we'll have a civil war in Canada.
Oh,
Well, that's the only kind of war in Canada it would be civil.
True.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. The new prime minister
You have to
sort of
borrow all
laid
the-
into
Well,
America.
to be fair, Alberta speaks English, so
Most of Canada speaks English.
Except for that little thing around Quebec City.
Quebec
Quebec.
City and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't pronounce the U. It's Quebec.
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 Quebec, yeah.
Put a K on the
Quebecois.
end. Quebec.
So, anyways, Code of Honor.
Code of Honor. Time for a quote,
And
man.
so I've got a quote ready. I picked it out between
Yay.
episodes, as I want to do. But hey, it's been a very busy week.
Lazy bastard.
And, I had planned on doing it last night, spending more time with it, but just time got away because just had a lot of stuff going on. We had plans last night, and then
The party today.
had to do all kinds of prep for today, and had to go to, ended up trying to go to the grocery store late last night. Kroger's and Walmart near us close at 10 o'clock now.
Yes.
which really sucks.
They used to be open 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
Yeah, until COVID.
Yeah. Now, granted, do you really need to make a Walmart run at 3 a.m.?
Actually, I preferred it because when you go there at 3 a.m.,
Yeah, there's nobody there.
There's nobody
I get that.
there.
I get that.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
economically
all the
speaking-
departments are
economically
closed,
speaking,
but-
no, it's not practical to
Yeah,
run that.
yeah, it's not. So, anyways, I've got a quote here.
Mhm.
Let's see. Oh, where did it go?
Oh, and the preparing thing, for those who aren't aware, we're recording here in Louisville, Kentucky on
Derby
Day,
Yes.
which is also World Naked Gardening Day.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
I've got pictures to post of me naked
The
on my
Imperator
tractor.
asked if he needed to. What is it? You asked if you needed to bring.
Oh, a weed eater?
Oh,
I
the right
was
to weed
offering
eater.
to help
yeah,
with
yeah.
your yard.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that was a hard pass, soft
I'd
pass,
be
whatever.
that way.
And I still reiterate the fact that using a weed eater naked
Is dangerous.
is
Yes.
akin to
Ah.
frying bacon naked, not
Ah.
recommended
And
whatsoever.
I'd fry all the time naked. It's
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
Remind me to bring my own sandwich when we are at your place.
Exactly.
No.
See, now this is exactly the kind of life choice that I think the Imperator is here
Not
to
like
talk
I'm gonna-
about
It's not like I'm going to dip anything in your food.
as an example of how not to do things. I think that is your great purpose in life,
No.
is to provide the cautionary tale for the rest of us.
It's the epitome of Gen Z. It's my house. It's my yard. I'll be naked in it if I want to be
But
naked
you're Gen
in
X.
it. Oh, okay.
And I'll bring my own
Gen X,
sandwich if I
yes.
want.
Good point. I'll bring. Yeah.
That's right. If we want to bring our own damn sandwich, we
I
will.
mean, as far as the neighbors go, mind your own business or admire the scenery. Either way, don't bother me with it.
Anyway, your quote, sir?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes. Quote. So this is by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
Goethe.
Oh,
Okay.
Gert,
Mhm.
All right. We must always change, renew, rejuvenate ourselves. Otherwise, we harden.
Amen.
Let's hear it for hardening.
I'm all for hardening.
Yep.
of the arteries.
Well, we've done that
Yes,
too.
yes. That would
That
be
too.
part of it. Yeah.
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 Mhm.
I mean, we were discussing swelling earlier.
Yes.
You know.
My breast allergy.
Wow. Okay. So, anyways,
Hold that thought.
we must always change, renew, rejuvenate ourselves. Otherwise, we harden.
Amen.
Um,
Lifelong learning.
To oversimplify, if we're not growing, we're dying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yes, that is all true, gentlemen. The reason I chose this one in my quick flipping through this book of the most inspiring things ever said, edited and with an introduction by Stephen D. Price, just to give props where props are due.
Who's Stephen Price?
The
He's
guy
who wrote the book.
edited
Wrote the
and
book.
did an introduction. Yeah. He
He's
came up
not-
with 1,447 motivating and enlightening quotations. So
Well. Or Chat
That's-
GPT did.
I mean,
now this is
No,
before
it's
chat.
before
That's
Chat-
that book is
uh,
way before ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That's a good
This
point.
is copyright 2017. Oh, not way before,
No, not way before.
but still most likely without.
So-
It's enough that he did his internet research.
Right.
So don't stagnate.
Yes.
Right. One of the reasons I chose this is partially some of the themes that we've talked about of late.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And especially this last episode, we touched on some of those themes when
Mhm.
we were talking about the great John Hughes and being our muse and all that.
Mhm.
Because Gen X, in many ways, we talked about we didn't do therapy as X, especially as male Gen Xers. We're
Back in the day, yeah.
that was just not
Mhm.
what we did. I mean, it just wasn't something we would have considered
Suck it
for
up,
the most
boy.
part.
Well,
Yeah,
we
suck
would-
it up, rub some dirt on it, and walk it
Yeah,
off.
because we wouldn't have thought anybody would understand anyway.
No.
Well, there's that.
There was the
there's
pariah
also,
against mental health.
And to be fair, it was none of their damn business anyway.
exactly. It was because we were that latchkey generation,
Mm-hmm.
left our own devices throughout the day. I think that instilled in us the whole idea that why do we need therapy? We can fix it ourselves.
Yeah, we're very self-reliant. We'll just fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that whole mindset, though, is while that's not necessarily a great part of that mindset, that whole I can
Yeah.
fix
Rather
Yeah.
toxic.
Yeah.
that can be, yeah. But on the other hand, we fixed things and
Yeah,
it did
self-sufficient.
just fine. The other people have meltdowns over now.
Yeah, we can change a tire.
Writing cursive and all that kind of
Yes,
stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
But
That's code for you newer ones.
yeah,
We keep it in
well, they
code.
know. I mean, by now they are familiar with that. But
Yeah.
but we came of age in a time when being the self-made man or woman,
Mm-hmm.
pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, all of that
Yeah.
was part and parcel of
Mhm.
the cultural zeitgeist that we grew up in. We were you want to okay, Brother Andre wants a
Word boner.
Yeah.
that for the zeitgeist. I was going to say milieu, but I used that last time. So
You gotta expand that vocabulary.
right. Well, certain ones I always like to throw out for Martin every
Mhm.
once in a while because he does love those words
Yeah.
so much. But
We got him a thesaurus for Christmas.
My other favorite is hubris.
hubris,
Hubris.
yes,
I love
hubris. Hubris. But we grew up and became of age in a time when we were expected to make something of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Not
Oh yeah.
not just necessarily go out and get a great job, because I mean that was part of it, but I think implicit in that was you're carving your own path, even if you're getting a job,
Yeah.
whether it be at what we can now call a side hustle
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. We were very
Mm-hmm.
goal oriented, motivation driven, right?
Yeah.
That was it was part of the 80s
Mhm.
and early 90s. It was just part and parcel of the whole thing.
We're not supporting you. You're going to support yourself.
Yeah.
You better figure it out.
Right.
Your ass is on your own.
And so in that backdrop, a lot of people, I mean, the self-help industry exploded in a way
Mhm.
that had never been seen before.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think self-help is, things like eat, pray, love. Yeah, no, that's
Oh, Tony Robbins is a billionaire because of it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
but
He is
we,
the quintessential.
we had things like Susan Powder.
Who?
Susan Powder? Oh no, big dieting freak with the shaved blonde hair. She was a real.
Oh, I
big
think I
thing,
vaguely
yeah.
remember her.
Richard Simmons.
Richard
Oh,
Simmons,
yeah.
yeah.
Exercisers, yeah.
But whether it be Tony Robbins,
Mhm.
Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar.
Oh, yeah,
Personally,
that's
I
a
love
big
me
one.
some Zig. I could listen to him all day long
It-
because he's just got that southern charm and style. That
Mhm.
is just he's so
Southern
folksy.
Grandpa.
Yes. Brian Tracy's another one.
Mhm.
Those are probably the biggest ones. And then, you had some others that were a little bit more into the not necessarily woo-woo stuff, but stuff that I'm not a particularly big fan of. Leads into that prosperity gospel kind of stuff and
Oh, yeah.
manifesting, which is a big thing now for
Yes,
these
that's
years.
a big one.
Holcomb.
To a certain degree, there is some truth to that sort of thing in the sense that if you focus on something,
Mm-hmm. You
Yes.
can make it happen.
you can make it happen. But it's not that you focusing on it draws it into your life.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you more likely to go and find it. And there is a
The
huge
focus,
difference.
The focus leads to action.
Yes.
Action
It's
leads
supposed to,
Action leads to
yes.
success.
to learning, and learning leads to taking the task or the
Mhm.
whatever on. Yeah.
Right.
Build it, and they will come.
And so that backdrop, in addition to the John Hughes stuff, but that backdrop, I think, kind of is one of the things that defines us. And it's not to say that it doesn't define any other generation. No other generations are into this sort of thing, because that's not my point. We're here talking about our experiences and why this is important to us. And so, given all that, for the most part, I'd say that is why, along with the later boomers, because they started
Mhm.
the computer revolution.
Yeah.
We didn't start it, but we certainly ran with it once we got
Yeah.
into it.
We're the ones who,
We
who
embraced it.
figured out how to make some kind of real practical use out of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean,
we're the adopters who said, "Hey, you know what? We can do fun stuff with this."
right, not just practical, but fun stuff.
Mhm.
Xers were part and parcel of big parts of developing the fun technologies that we have.
Yeah.
That's not to say we're the only ones.
No.
Again, I don't want to be steal anybody's thunder or credit in that sense, because the late boomers and Xers certainly worked together hand in hand to do that.
Mhm.
But again, we are that generation that transitioned
Yes.
from a 100% analog world
Mm-hmm.
to a 100% digital world.
We
And
bridged.
we
it,
experienced every step
Yeah.
in between.
Well, I mean, we were born prior to the alleged moon landing.
There is no legend to it.
I'm not necessarily that I believe that.
You know how we
A
can-
lot of people do believe that nowadays.
Well, see, when you say alleged moon landing, the implication is that you don't believe it happened.
no, I'm not saying that.
I didn't say you said that. I said the implication.
Our-
Implication?
Yeah.
Your implication and our inference.
Yes,
Exactly.
That's the part.
Our
Girls'
inference
inference,
is
bro.
that you think it's
Yeah.
horseshit.
Yeah, no,
So
no.
So anyway,
there was no way they could launch a rocket off the flat Earth.
Capricorn Moon or Capricorn 1.
Capricorn
Yes.
1.
Great book and film.
well, in what was the recent movie Fly Me to the Moon?
Oh yes,
That was funny.
I've got to watch that one.
it-
I've
it
been
was pretty
wanting to
good.
see it.
For those of you who have not seen it, Martin, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
I have
Okay.
not.
Oh, it's a great
So-
premise.
It's a story about how there was a backup
Yeah,
plan
Mhm.
for if something went wrong
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
with the moon landing.
it was Kubrick.
Oh, I mean, hey,
Mhm.
they had speeches written for Nixon.
Well, no. This was the implication of this was we
They
have
never
a
got
set.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
they have everything.
They were going to fake it if it didn't really happen.
Yeah.
Right. If something happened, they were going to switch the
Well,
feed and do it on that soundstage.
We had to beat the Russians. That was the whole thing.
It was, but you
We
know
had
what?
to.
The Russians never were close.
They were
No,
never-
I
they
agree
were
they
never
weren't,
close.
but we didn't know that.
Well, we didn't know that. I actually, probably by the time it happened, I think we did.
Probably, but I mean, Sputnik. The fact that Sputnik could be picked up on standard
Yes.
tube
yes.
radios was that set it. That set that.
That was a
fear.
humiliating thing.
It was for
it was
Americans.
Very, yeah. But anyways, we're way off track. there.
Back.
Yeah. But yeah, we
Not to mention Kennedy and that whole thing.
yeah. Don't even get us started there. So yes, Martin.
No, just hold on.
Hold
hold that thought.
Hold that thought.
That thought.
Hold that
yeah.
thought. My brain is hurting from inferences. So please, let's go back to the quote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes having the imperator in the room is exhausting.
You know,
Not necessarily in a bad way.
Just
Don't get
ask,
me wrong.
Just ask the Imperatrix about that.
Exactly.
it's a
yeah.
mixed blessing. You know,
Yes.
Well, yes, I think we all have our mixed.
it's
blessings.
a
That
little
we all
column A,
are.
little column B.
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Wonderful and difficult.
So against this all these different personalities,
Mhm.
I think the '80s is definitely a decade of the big personalities, right?
That indeed.
Not that again,
Decade of excess.
not that the, other decades didn't have their big personalities and what have you. Again, we're speaking from our cultural background.
Boy, we took it to new limits.
This whole expectation of, because it also wasn't just us, because we
Yeah.
didn't really come of age until the latter half of the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
So when a lot of this kind of self-help boom started, it was the later boomers. The
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
the
I mean, we just put on sweaters and sang Nirvana songs and went on.
well, I didn't do that, but
No.
Well, you were already there.
Well, I mean, I was.
You were already into those tunes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I was
Not
never really
Nirvana.
huge with Nirvana, is what I mean.
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
more
you-
into the punk new wave stuff.
yeah,
yeah.
you were already there, and it just the rest of us had to get there with the
Well,
Morrissey and the Smiths, and then
Oh,
Nirvana.
yeah.
I used to
later.
love Morrissey and the Smiths,
Yeah.
and then I got Sirius XM in the car,
But you only listen to so much of it.
and I swear every third song
Yeah.
was the Smiths. What's the title?
Yeah, I know
uh,
which one you're talking about.
Because they play it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy it. It's the only Smiths/Morrissey song I really know. Being a
How Soon
metal
Is
guy.
Now?
How soon is now?
Yeah.
So I do enjoy it, and I
I
listened
just
to
got
it.
sick of hearing it.
I listened to it last night on my Spotify. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the angst.
Yeah.
So
So so this is our background. This whole you will make something of yourself, partially because
Yeah.
that was already what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Our generation was almost built for that kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
because it's how we grew up. you know.
Mhm.
Not just the taking care of ourselves, but figuring out how we're going to entertain ourselves every day.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have devices to entertain us.
And we are the generation that's the most comfortable with change.
Yes, we are.
Oh
So
yeah.
we move through this what's in the quote about, you have to change and grow
Mhm.
or you harden.
Renew, rejuvenate. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's us. That's what
Well,
we do.
I mean, yeah,
We put something aside and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Although one of the reasons they say Gen X is angry because we had to replace our record albums with cassette or our 8 tracks. Although we didn't really have 8 tracks
No,
so
no,
much.
we replaced our
Yeah.
we replaced our vinyl with cassettes, replaced our cassettes with CDs, replaced our CDs with streaming,
No, with
Now-
MP3s.
with MP3s,
then streaming,
and
and
then
then streaming. Yeah.
and now it's back to vinyl.
yeah,
Now we're back to.
yeah, we spent
I got
all
rid
that
of all my vinyl.
yeah, we spent all
Yeah.
that damn money.
Yeah.
So,
But
That's enough to trigger any Gen Xer right there.
Yeah, but I think going back to the quote, it says you need to continually better yourself. But I think and then you were talking about you had to achieve something. I think the definition of success based on this quote is where the discussion should probably end
but-
up.
interesting.
the thing is though, our parents had an expectation of what was considered success. Okay.
40 years with the same company, the gold watch, and
Exactly,
the
all that kind of crap. But the thing is, success for our generation, okay, has turned into what our view of success is.
Well, and that is one of the things I think that we have done. Is that
Individual.
we
Yeah,
have
as a generation, we've redefined.
redefined
Define what
success.
success is.
One of the things that I rail against in a lot of the stuff that I write online for my personal development work
Mm-hmm.
is the old, and this is true of those guys that I talked about that were
Yeah.
motivational speakers in the 80s.
Mhm.
It's true of them, and not necessarily as much now for the ones that are still doing it, but there's still that sense of it. And that is that there is a single definition of
Yeah.
success, and it always involves money and cars, and big houses, and all of that. No one can define success for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You have to define it for yourself. That's one of the reasons why the nonfiction book I wrote starts out with values,
Mhm.
right? Because your values determine what your definition of success is.
That's very true.
And
You do you, boo.
exactly.
Yeah. So I think Brother Andre is hitting on we're syncing up our brainwaves here. We've been celebrating Francis's achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But when you think about someone becoming a first-time published novelist
Yeah.
at age 58, 59,
Mm-hmm.
59, yeah. he was
59,
yeah.
like that's the epitome of this quote of
Yes.
renewing, rejuvenating,
Mhm.
being someone different than you were 10 years ago, and continuing to move through this ether of what existence is and discovering new parts of yourself.
Right. But if you look back at for those of us that are doing creative writing,
Mm-hmm.
every one of us was involved in stories early on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whether it be fan fiction
Reading.
kind of stuff,
Mhm.
writing plays,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and directing them, and at Bellarmine,
Farming.
performing in things. We were always doing the storytelling in one way
Mhm.
or another.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the seeds of what we are currently working on, they've always been there.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're older and the kids are not around as much,
right,
we have time to develop that.
Yeah, for me there was a desire but not a belief.
Right.
Thanks to you guys, now there's a belief because I got down and tried it and then realized, hey, I've written 5,000 words. There's no reason I can't write 55,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason
Yep.
I can't write 85,000. I can actually do this.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Belief is it's very important.
so
That's one of the
powerful.
things that because I again back in the 80s I was huge into all of this stuff, and I still am to a degree, but now it's more internalized
Mm-hmm.
than originally it was, obviously. And belief is the starting point.
yeah.
If you do not believe
Yeah.
you can, then no, you cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Andre, did I supplant you or intervene or did it? I think you had something there. that
Well,
you wanted to say.
Yeah, when we were in between breaks, we had talked about getting an update on everyone's writing projects. And,
Yes.
Oh,
and
yes, I figured we'd do that at Bourbon Break.
oh, okay.
Well, I was going
Yeah.
to put you on the spot sooner than Bourbon Break.
Oh, were you?
to
Oh, okay.
discuss it.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
Are we all
Because
going to
I-
discuss our enterprises?
Well,
we
Go for it.
can, but I
Everybody's
in
doing
particular,
something creatively.
in particular, I wanted to hear about Robert
Yes.
because he's had kind of a breakthrough, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited for him.
I am
And
too.
So, as listeners know, because I don't talk about it as much as, and I don't mean this in a bad way, as much as Francis has been talking about his, or we've been talking about Francis.
right, we've been celebrating the milestone with,
Right,
with Francis a lot.
Yes.
We have.
But I wanted to make sure that we then turned around and celebrated your milestone.
And I appreciate
Yes.
that. I do. So I've been working on my book for quite a while, and the first half of the book I wrote, and then it sat for a long time. When I got back to into the second half, finished that draft, and like a lot of first drafts, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And because there was a huge gap,
But it's got good bones.
I don't know. I think it had some scoliosis
Well,
in that
'cause
first
what you
draft.
discovered is
happens.
there's
But
kind of
there-
a hole.
But there is the same general story is still there.
Yeah.
And what have you. And so I spent quite a bit of time, restructuring, getting it consistently,
Mhm.
a consistent story throughout all of it. And I spent a crap ton of time trying to get the beginning right to lay the foundation, because that's extremely important.
Right.
You can't, you have to set up stuff that pays off in the end. You can't be paying off stuff that started
Mhm.
in the last 3 chapters of the book, right? So finally, I decided, as different ideas were coming to me over the Christmas break, because I always take the week, usually take the week between Christmas and New Year's off, and I've been doing all kinds of stuff in December. So I was working, and this is all working on the second draft. All right.
Yeah.
And as I was struggling with what to include, and what not to include, because I envision this as a series. I decided, all right, look, I need to cut this to the bare bones and, tell the first essential story. And so I was working on that. And then basically it got to the point where it was like, screw it. This is what it's going to be. Rewrote a ton of stuff. Matter of fact, I think 46 of the 80, somewhat around 80 scenes ended up being totally new in this current draft.
Mhm.
It's labeled draft 2, but it's probably really more like draft 3, because the second draft went through so many changes.
Mhm.
But from March 20th through April, it was 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It was
right.
exactly
it was,
5.
It was.
It was 35 days exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, 46 new scenes, and rewrote all the rest of them to work within this new framework. It was a massive amount of productivity. And honestly, I'm still a little bit awed of myself. It's not because I think I'm great, but it's like, holy crap, I can't believe I did all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is done. The framework is there. What's going on is there. Now I'm in I'm just starting with picking up on revising. I'm going through the different scenes, making sure that all the scenes work in and of themselves, that there's a consistent story being told.
Yeah.
Because again, right now is not the time to be looking at line edits and picking over words. That's later. Right now, it's making sure, do I have all of the elements of the story that need to be there? Am I hitting the right notes? Am I fast paced enough? Am I slow where it needs to be slow? That sort of thing. But the story is there, and the goal is to be through several drafts worth of story by the time the end of August rolls around.
Okay.
Because there are a couple of publishers that I want to submit to, and I don't know that it'll be ready by then, but that's the goal, is to be through like 5 or 6 drafts by the time I
your
get there.
current draft is over 100,000 words.
Yes. So the original draft was 155, and I knew it was going to be stuff that was have to be cut and what have you, because it was first draft, and I knew after doing the second half, I was like, okay, yeah, a lot of that stuff in the beginning is going to go and stuff like that. But I was struggling with getting it down. But once I cut things down to the bare bones, and now the fourth act, I call it the fourth act because I take the middle act and divide it into 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Middle build 1, middle build 2, which is really just the second act. So when I get to that final act, that was entirely new, because that what was there will be the final act of the final book,
Okay.
because that was more of a final resolution to the conflict. So, crap, I forget where I was going with that. But anyways,
Anyway, you've
doing
got
all of that,
got
I
kind of
got
a-
it down to
you.
about 103,000 words.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say you told us I think it was like 105 or
A
100.
little under, yeah. So
Yeah.
around that.
But
give
you've
or
got
take.
you've got a
Yeah.
very workable draft
Absolutely.
to really fine tune.
And to cut. I mean, even some of the stuff I've been looking at while I'm going through looking for something. Oh yeah, that needs to be cut. That's I'm already seeing stuff, which is hard to turn that part of my brain off,
Yeah,
because I'm looking at story and structure.
yeah.
And that's fine. And I'm going back and forth between, I like having the printout version to go through to make
Yeah.
notes, because that way I can't make changes while I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I know it's also a little bit slower going.
Yeah.
I would also like to be able to do my story grid spreadsheet where it tracks important things,
Mm-hmm.
like gives a summary of the scene, and like a one sentence. Then I'm not really sure why we need both, but that's just the way the thing is structured by the guy who put the story grid stuff together. Who the characters are, who the POV character is, and then for each scene, you list out, all right, what's the inciting incident? What's the rising complication? What's the crisis? What's the climax? What's the resolution? Because your scene needs to have those. Now, sometimes the beginning and the ending of those might actually take place in a different scene, because you pick up in the middle of something, because you have cliffhangers and stuff, and when there's thrillers. So it doesn't always follow a scene will have each one of those within the bounds of it. So sometimes it's implicit or see next scene kind of a thing. But it helps make sure that you're not just having a scene where people are just sitting around doing this, talking, and nothing.
Right. There has to be a payoff for
Mhm.
every
Yes.
piece has to contribute.
Right. Where's the conflict? Where's
Where-
the dealing with conflict?
Yeah.
if there's not a conflict?
Where does this go? What piece of the story does this show the reader?
Yes. And what that really helps you do is identify, one, where things are missing,
Yeah.
and two,
It's-
where you realize, well, this scene isn't even necessary at all. That's
Yeah.
2,000 words that I can toss right,
Right,
there.
right. So that's the main piece that I try to keep in mind with anything that I'm working on when I add a scene in is this has to show the reader something the reader needs to know.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
if
That-
it
that's a
doesn't,
perfect way to put it.
if
Yeah.
it doesn't, then forget it. What do or if I come up with something, it's like, you know what I need to put my characters in danger again, but there still has to be something to it.
Right. It can't be
where-
gratuitous. There has to be a reason.
Right. What
Has to move the
this,
story.
This has to show them something down the road. So,
This isn't a Michael Bay movie. Everything can't be gratuitous.
Right.
well, but we kind of like gratuitous. I mean,
we do. We do.
I'm very much influenced in mine with or by Tarantino,
Okay.
oh, right. Yeah.
or this episodic violent type stuff. We were going to talk about Sam Peckinpah. I mean, Peckinpah is like Tarantino's daddy.
Yeah.
So this hyper violent episodic type of thing. That's kind of where I'm headed with mine. But I'm so glad. I know you were sort of in limbo there for a couple of months,
yeah.
and I'm so glad you had a breakthrough, and I'm so excited for you. And I know now you've got your arms around something.
Oh, absolutely.
You've really got something you've got a bear hug on that
Oh,
you
yeah.
can work with, and I'm really excited. You're riding the tiger.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Where
saying
I
about
was-
with Francis.
Yeah. Where I was is emblematic of a lot of things in my life, and that is, I start with something way too big.
Yeah.
And the grandiose plans and scope of the first book really, it's like, dude, once you decide it's going to be a series, all of that stuff some of that stuff needed to be stretched out. Other things need
Right.
to be built
Yeah,
up.
I mean
Well-
it's a breakthrough that allowed you to restructure the entire
Right.
tale.
Right.
it-
And
you
part of
know.
that is just deciding.
Yeah.
You know,
Part of mine, I decided early on that mine was going to be kind of a smaller, more personal.
Sure, you're
and
doing first person, or are you doing third person?
I am doing 2 first-person
Okay,
perspectives.
okay.
So
That's right, because you're doing the gangbang leader and the cop, right?
yeah. So I'm kind of using that Jeff Shara trick of
Well, Shara's our third person. First person is, the guy, the narrator is actually the character. He's like,
yeah. I mean,
I did this.
yeah. Basically, in each scene, the reader knows only what that character knows.
Right, and that should be true all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing it, and so if that character wasn't involved, it doesn't happen on the page.
Right. Right.
So it's kind of that Jeff Shara sort of when he bounces from the general to the soldier to the general to the
And that's
soldier.
pretty much the most
That-
common way stories are told nowadays is the multiple, not always multiple, but like I started out doing a lot of different POVs.
Yeah.
Not first person; they're all third person close, third person limited, depending on which term you prefer.
Yeah.
But now it's mostly the main character, and I just slice off for a few things that are required. Like I'll slice off into a side character because the main character he's tied up with something, and the story, the main part, the other part of the story is got to go on.
Yeah.
Slide into the bad guy's story because
Yeah.
there's some really cool stuff there.
Right.
But mostly it turns out it is the protagonist is the
Yeah.
and
Now I'm also throwing in a few red herrings.
yes, that's always good.
Plot twist.
It's a Carl Hyacin. I like his books. He writes kind of crime stuff set in South Florida. He doesn't usually
Right.
do it as a cop. He's usually doing a PI.
Right.
He does
Yeah,
kind of PI stuff, and the cop is sort of one of the supporting characters.
it's interesting that you
If
bring
you
that
ever
up.
if
I
you ever
think-
seen Striptease with Demi Moore, that's based on a Carl Hyacin book.
Oh, okay.
So that's the kind of the South Florida he mixes in, like the Joel Osteen type
Right.
grifter for Jesus character, and then a stripper and
Please, Mr. Osteen, don't sue us.
and a photographer, and
Please do.
all these kind of South Florida things.
Right.
And so I'm trying to use some of those techniques too, throw in a few backstories, red herrings, that kind of thing.
Because you're getting close too.
I'm at 68,000, and I'm hoping to be somewhere around 85. So it's not going to be very long. And then I've got a decision to make. I know I need again another one of these scenes where the main characters are in danger,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure right now how I'm going to do it. If it's car chase or foot chase or who gets shot
Being
at.
that we're Gen X, you have to use quicksand.
Yeah. Yes.
Quicksand and anvils falling from the sky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Acme.
We always thought quicksand was going to be a much bigger problem.
Yeah.
Haven't experienced any yet.
Yeah, it's stop, drop, and roll. We always thought that was going to be a thing, and
Yeah,
I've never had to
haven't-
stop, drop, and roll.
Not once. Not once.
I
I've stopped and dropped a few times, but
can't say that.
So, yeah, I've got
I've
to
been on
decide.
fire a few times.
Yeah, and I've got to decide, what will that scene?
Well, you're
ultimately
close enough.
contribute. Yeah,
That and again, I don't know where you are in the story, but it sounds like you're also close enough to the end where that's the crisis and your climax is that last element because there's it can't just be showing up to arrest the guy. There's got to be danger
Right.
involved.
Yeah,
in
there's
that.
going to be some danger. There's still going to be. Let's see. I just had 2 more bodies found, and so we're getting close. There's 2 more clues that have to be disclosed, basically, to the reader to reach the final arrest scene, and then that's going to be one last danger scene at the arrest.
Yes.
And then, the reader gets left with the aftermath.
Right. That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm very pleased that you have been making progress and moving along. I know it's not going as fast as you would like.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately my brain just shuts down after work.
Well,
I just
that
can't-
we've
it's
talked about
so
that
hard
before.
for me to
Yeah.
Yeah.
do anything in the evenings because I'm just like I can read Facebook and that's about all I can manage
You know,
intellectually.
Well, it depends. You were expressing frustration. It's if the end is your goal, then yeah, you could be frustrated for taking a while. But if the process is your goal, then it's going to take as long as it takes, and you can find
Well,
enjoyment.
yeah,
Yeah.
part of going back to the whole
Yeah, the quote.
thing here. You know, it's cliched, but cliches always have an element of truth, and that is that success is not an event.
Right.
It's a habit and a process.
Yeah.
It's a process that is built on habits with the result of the success. And yeah, writing every day, that's hard.
Yeah.
Those 5 weeks where I actively wrote every single day. Now I'm actively editing because I'm not writing new scenes or doing major rewrites yet on scenes. Hopefully I won't have a whole lot of major rewrites. I'm sure there will be some because there always are.
No, I mean, I
but
really think you're to the point of. I mean, it's you're riding the tiger.
oh yeah,
You're gonna shape this dude up, and it's gonna be killer.
I certainly
And
hope so.
you're ready to go. I'm
So-
really thrilled for you.
So getting all building that habit. I mean, there are days where I didn't write until 11:30 at night
Ooh.
at and squeezed out 500 words. Stopped in the middle of a scene because that was all I could do because I wanted to get something
Yeah,
in.
good for you.
Yeah.
And I understand the whole decision fatigue is a thing. A lot of that has to do with with our health too, with the amount of energy, because your brain uses up more energy
Oh yeah.
than any other body part, short of when you're running a marathon. That sort of
Yeah.
thing, doing hard physical labor, which
Yeah.
none of us really do.
No, no. I mean, it's just by the time I commute and everything, I'm just so burnt out.
And it's also
you know
the kind of guys that we are. We spend a lot of time in our own heads.
yeah.
And because like for me, there's always some kind of monologue or conversation going on in my head, and it's hard for me to shut that off.
That's not a matter of concern unless it becomes a duet.
No, that's okay too. It's when you don't. It's when you let it get out of hand.
Yeah.
Like when it becomes a whole other
Yeah.
person in your head.
What I am finding though is that it's in here all the time.
Yes.
I mean, when I get up in the morning,
And
when
that's
I'm
a
in-
good thing.
When I'm in the shower and I get out of the shower, that whole time is spent. It's all up in here. It's churning. Even if I don't get anything to write, it's not remote. It's not out of my head. It's in there.
Yep.
And like you said, as a definition of success, whatever happens with this, I mean, would it be sweet if it got published? Well, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Dude, even if we don't get a traditional publisher for you, we'll get it. We'll publish it.
We'll
on
figure it
Kindle.
out.
Yeah, we'll
figure it out.
We'll self-publish
But I
that
mean,
bad boy.
They have the open submissions for the publishers. The indie publishers do that. I'm sure I could get someone interested in it. It wouldn't hurt.
Jumpmaster will look at it.
I know
Hydra
Raconteur
Publications here in
Hydra
town.
will look at it.
Yes, Three Ravens will look at it.
Yeah.
That's Cajun's guy.
Yeah, they'll all look at it. So I mean, I'm confident that something fun.
Right.
But the main thing for me, what I have discovered with writing, and I think this is part of the joy that fuels you and Francis too, is it's just me.
There's
It's
something to
all
that.
me. Nobody's on the phone. This doesn't work. Well, I don't give a that it doesn't work. You know what?
Yep.
I'm sorry that the taskbar in Windows 11 is too bright for you. I don't
Yeah.
care.
I'm sorry that the start menu is in the center now.
Instead of the
Yeah,
left.
it's
You
so
can move it
much.
to the left. I
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
People
I'm
don't know how to
just-
do that though.
I'm just burnt out on being there for others,
I get that.
and
Well, you're
writing is
you're dealing with stupid people on a daily basis. Everything about them.
well lawyers.
Again, this is the curse of those
Being
who are
intelligent?
thinkers. Okay,
Yeah,
all of us are very smart guys.
like I would always investigate first how to fix something before I ask.
Exactly.
Right.
Before
I
you
mean, yes, I will ask,
Yeah.
but you can take as a
Well-
granted that I've been tinkering already myself.
Yeah, I hate having to call tech support because they always make you want to. They always want to make you walk through the things that you've already done
You've
five
already done.
times.
Have you unplugged it?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's
But
turned on?
That's the curse, though, of being thinkers, and being relatively smart guys. Now, we're not the smartest guys we know,
Yep.
but no, we're
I
not.
didn't say anything. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, I saw the look.
Anyway,
But
that's been.
but for the most part,
of it. Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
way in the top percentages.
Uh-huh.
But we recognize, like my pastor, he is sharper than all of us.
He's
Uh-huh.
one smart
Abs-
dude.
He's intelligent.
And he's very good at putting things together. Now he
Mhm.
also has a little bit more time to think and ruminate on these things.
Yes.
And that's part of it.
It's the lack of
but
sex.
but he's also just got a very good, sharp mind that hews to principles and truth, and that is his thing. He is a truth seeker
That is.
because for him, truth is Jesus Christ. So that drives him. Now, that doesn't mean he's that colors how he presents things, but if it's true, then for him that is a good thing. Anything that is true is good. Anyways, so having to deal with that kind of stuff is difficult for us because we get frustrated with, well, why
are you
didn't you
asking?
just do this?
Yeah.
It's so obvious.
This is
Why
so
are you
easy.
afraid to push a button
Yeah.
that says push me because you think it's going to blow something up? It wouldn't say push me if it was going to blow everything up. That just drives me nuts. Anyways, it is time for do you want to do your update?
Yeah, I want.
Oh, my
I want
updates?
to talk about his while we do bourbon.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah,
We'll
so
talk
I
about it
wanted
during
to
bourbon.
kick it over to
No,
you.
no.
Yeah, let's
one,
do
one
bur-
of one of the things I was going to bring up though was part of the thing is, and I've just seen more articles on this. They're saying that between 30 and 50% of human beings do not have an internal monologue.
I know. I heard that and I was shocked.
How do you live like that?
Right. I mean, seriously, it's like people who
But these are the same people driving in traffic around us.
yes. But I sort of understand it in the sense that because not everybody is a thinker, it doesn't mean that they're stupid. They're just not constantly thinking about the meaning of stuff.
No, this is true.
What is the definition of intelligence? I think it's always analyzing and evaluating. So
Right,
you're
but-
not thinking about it.
But
That
but
definition.
analyzing that is thinking.
50%
Because
of
it's-
below average intelligence.
That's right. That's right. By
49.
definition.
Yeah.
But
He's bell curving us.
he
Mhm.
is. But
Thank God for the
Um,
bell curve.
people that don't have an internal monologue, it's like the difference between people who that they think in pictures versus they actually think in the
Possibly.
words,
Mm-hmm.
which always astounded me. It's like
Yeah.
you visualize the actual word elephant, not the actual animal, because it's a similar kind of thing. I think.
Yeah,
you know.
possibly.
Well, at least in terms of it's a different way in people think. But yeah, people that don't have an internal monologue going on, it's like, what do you do all day?
Well, it's real simple. They call Martin.
Yeah, exactly.
They listen to Beyonce.
It's such a
Yes.
joy that I'm looking forward to
Retirement?
hopefully retiring and
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll get another job. Maybe I'll just decide to become a novelist.
Well, I tell you what, I would kill to be able to do that.
The thing I have to commend Martin on is the fact that he hasn't gone postal yet.
That's true, because you've got the tools.
Yes,
Yep.
you have the ammunition, so to speak.
He has to go through screening every day.
Yes, that doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
That's not going to stop.
Well, that's,
Somebody with enough weaponry and determination will get past that.
that's part of
Yeah.
the theater of the screening that's so stupid is I have access to the facility 24/7. I could be stockpiling RPGs.
Not that he has.
Not that he
Yeah.
has.
I mean, it's like, oh, you're going to screen me.
That's right. He keeps the RPGs at home.
make me take my car keys out of my pocket every day.
But you can
and
bring them in at 3 in the morning when
But at-
nobody's screening.
right at 3 in the morning. I can have when just as long as I avoid the cameras and nobody's going to look at the recordings anyway. But
Not until afterwards.
You have access to the recordings.
no, that I don't have. So
Well, that's a good separation of duties.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's-
good. Anyways, let's.
When they go to prosecute.
So we'll start bourbon break,
Yes.
and then you can do
Start
your break.
Start the
'cause we
bourbon
are
break.
yes,
50
I
minutes
wanna
in and
hear
have
about-
not done bourbon break yet.
Yes.
Bourbon break.
It's might be a bourbon break and then a wrap up as the
Mhm.
kind of the same.
Well, it's funny because even all of that segue or that rabbit hole was about the quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was-
It's very plugged in.
Mhm.
yeah. So it's not like we
Because it
rabbit
is-
holed sorta, but it was on topic.
It's it's growth.
It
Give us
you're
time. We'll rabbit hole off topic.
you explored something. Again, who's a first time novelist at age 59? I mean, it's just crazy.
Us,
So I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
I love
Usually the
but-
people
love
who
it.
didn't publish at 58.
Yeah.
and so
Well,
Smart ass.
but the thing is,
they,
we had lives, we had families, we had responsibilities. We were busy. Now we've got our lives back.
Well, that is one of the things about
but
X.
we didn't just get the life back. We decided to do something
With it,
fun with it.
yeah.
Right.
Something
Now-
different and unusual and fun. Because I mean,
I mean, we could have just
Robert
had
and
it,
I are both tech heads.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both like.
but
wait,
we're not.
You're an
the type-
IT guy that's now a novelist. Wait, what?
Right. But you know what? I've been writing stories or
Mhm.
fiddling with it,
Visually telling stories
either visually
Yeah.
since
or
you were a teenager.
I used to write, I work on writing when I was at Bellarmine. When I first had access to a computer,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the old K-Pros,
Yes.
floppy disks.
Wow.
K-Pro 16.
I was
Yeah.
using those and writing in WordStar. But
Wow.
like many things, like I talked about earlier, my ideas and plans are too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And learning how to focus has always been my problem, which is what I have finally done with this draft.
Yeah.
So bourbon break. Since I'm talking right now, I am
What did you
doing
pour?
the Rebel cask strength. Rebel is generally not seen, I think, as a high end brand.
Yeah. I mean, entry level Rebels just kind of an $18-19 bottle.
And I've seen generally. I think there's one above that.
There's
that I think I
one-
see
there's-
more
yeah.
often.
Mhm.
This is cask strength, and it is it's a wheated bourbon in Nelson County. Gotta love our Nelson County
We
stuff.
love our weededs in our Nelson
And
County.
it's 120 proof. Now this was a
Woo,
hand
doggy.
selected for Liquor Barn, so this was
Good
one of
thing
those
you're not going
barrel
anywhere.
picks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say. I know the barrel was filled in May of 18. So this is like 5 to 6 years old by the time it got to me. By the time it was bottled, so it's a pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
age.
about a 5-year age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything, especially I think once you hit 6 and above, I think you're really starting to get into some really smoother stuff. Now this is going to have a little bit of bite up front, but it really shines
And say,
when
Yeah,
it blooms.
Rebel stuff is generally as a brand is kind of rye forward.
Well,
a
but
little
this is
pepper
weeded,
forward, and
so
that's
yeah.
a weeded.
So there's
stuff.
not even any rye in this, but I think the burn is because it's that 120 proof.
Oh yeah.
When it blooms, does it get sweeter?
It does. It gets smoother and sweeter, like any good bourbon should.
Brother Andre, what did you pour, my brother?
I poured Evan Williams 1783 small batch, and I'd never had it, and I poured it, brought it down to the studio, and I was informed it's one of Cajun's favorite.
I think that's his daily
Yeah,
drinker is the
it is.
1783 small batch. Yeah.
And I took a sip of it, and the first one I was taken aback because it had a flavor that is uncommon to me in bourbons, and it took me a minute to realize it was cinnamon.
Yeah, I think you'll see that in a lot of bourbons, especially ones that may not be rye necessarily, but the hotter taste you get, I think it tends to be that cinnamony taste.
And then I don't know if this is my mind imposing on it, but after it bloomed a little bit, I'm getting flavors of spearmint.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
could be.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean that tends to be kind of a clean, minty, sort of a little bit sharp flavor, but still
Yes.
very good, smooth flavor.
It's a good drinker. It
Yeah,
is.
that's a real good drinker.
Not super expensive either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I highly recommend.
cool. I poured something we've already tried on the show and discussed at length is the Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond, the blue label, 100 proofer.
Yeah.
That's 8 years, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a kind of a milk chocolate, super smooth, very flavorful. 45, 50 buck bottle, somewhere in there.
I think that bottle was. I think I got it on sale. It was like 42, but yeah, it's a $50 bottle.
Yeah.
Right at
but-
max
but-
should be 50.
Yeah, so right in that price point, and for that price point, I think it's very flavorful.
Oh yeah.
And you just you wouldn't go wrong. spending that money on this dude. It's
No,
good
it
stuff.
is especially for an 8-year-old bourbon. I think anything under $50 is a bargain.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond Blue Label.
Yeah, it is. Heaven Hill has really been upping their game. I think these last few years
Yeah.
in producing some new flavors, some new expressions,
Yeah.
as we say, and they, I don't know how it's going to shake out because the industry, all of a sudden there was, seemed like it was somebody flipped a switch, and this is before tariffs started.
Yeah, I
Talking
mean,
about a
we-
downturn in the industry. It's like, when did that happen? Because all of a sudden people were talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
see how everything shakes out with all of these new expressions that a lot of places are doing.
Well, question. I think the last time I was here for recording, we discussed a possible glut of inventory because of
Yes.
the
They're
decrease
they're-
of bourbon.
They're still discussing it.
But have you seen prices lowering at the store?
No,
No.
no, no. Yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean that availability isn't better of some products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prices aren't generally down.
Yeah,
At some point, if supply becomes abundant, then that's the only way to move product is to lower
Is
prices.
price.
Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing you can do as a producer is you cut back on current production a bit.
Mhm.
That's
and
6
and
years down the road.
Well, and what you do is you take stuff that because again, it's a balance. You've got to balance what is for 6 or 7 years
Mhm.
down the road, or 4 years for the more basic stuff. With all right, I got all this stuff I can't sell,
Yeah.
so you let it keep aging, and you let it age a few more years, and because you're not going to be able to sell it now, and now you have a pricier bourbon for when the market picks up because you've let it age an extra
Yeah.
few years.
And it is one of the advantages of the industry and the fact that you can do, you're talking about blended whiskeys. So
Not always,
not always, but a lot of
because I mean single barrels,
single barrels you
cask
yeah.
strength is generally not.
I mean, the
Yeah.
bourbon market, even with a slight downturn, is still stronger than it was in, say, the 90s.
Oh yes.
So
By
I
a
mean,
long
it's-
shot.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I think there'll be some contraction, but I think it'll stabilize and be pretty solid because certainly we're not going anywhere.
Right.
No.
Yeah, but I hope the $1,200 bottles go away.
Yeah.
Never going to
They're
happen.
not- it's not
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Never going. Unfortunately, not going to happen.
As
I think
long
they'll
as
come
you
down
got
to
people,
1,100, but
as long as you got people with money and want to be prestige, show that prestige,
Yep.
they're going to be spending the money on it. That's why they're still selling $300 million yachts.
Yeah, that's why if Buffalo Trace were to start producing only Pappy
Mm-hmm.
or the high end Weller, which generally is supposed to be the same recipe as the Pappy.
Yeah.
It is quite delicious.
The
If
Pappy
that's
or the
all they
Weller.
did, and say they were able to produce 10 times what they produce now,
Mhm.
it would still be just as scarce because people, at least initially, because people would still be out there snatching it up. Now it might be snatched up for less overall because of because that
Hey,
glut
yeah, I
would
mean,
make it harder to. It's like, well, I can, I don't have to buy it at 800 from you. I can
Say-
buy it for 600 from this guy.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
the secondhand market prices are going to drop.
That is the hope, yes.
But
But
your
there's
Upfront
it's still going to be
sales are going to be. I mean, a 23-year-old Pappy is still $4.95
right.
retail.
And
And that's because most of that evaporates before you get it to the
Mm-hmm.
bottle.
And
I mean, that's-
$4.95 doesn't insult me when it's on the secondary
Well-
market for $1,200 or $3,000.
well, yeah,
$20
yeah, more than that,
$2,500.
multiple
No, no.
thousands, yeah.
Yeah, that you're talking.
But yes,
That offends
but even so, $500 for, and again, this is coming from I grew up poorer than I realized,
yeah.
Mhm.
and now that I look back and I realize, oh man, and just having to
Mhm.
to struggle as an adult, I'm like, I would have to win the lottery, and even then it would be like a one-off thing. I would not be out there buying $500 bottles of bourbon
Well,
all
yeah.
the time.
No, d-
Because it's just
nor
not, I mean,
should you.
I would I mean my inner Martin would die.
Yeah. I mean, there are people out there that buy all they can carry when
Oh yeah.
the stuff hits and have a house full. It's like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah, other
You're
than
not enjoying any of it. It's just sitting there.
right, or the people who do that thinking, oh, I'm going to turn around and sell it in 5 years. I was like, dude, you may, but is it really worth the time and effort? Because you're not going to sell it for 100 times what you bought it for.
You know, I think it was Mattel who specialized that in the '90s with the Beanie Babies that made the scarcity of them and
Yes.
a secondary market. And
And all the different types that, because the differentiation was a big thing. It wasn't all the
and
same
right
Beanie
now,
Baby.
Beanie Babies are worthless.
They are.
And people invested their savings into Beanie Babies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. So, Imperator, what creative project are you currently working on?
Oh, with the rocketry
Rockets. Yeah, I
stuff.
wanted to hear about the
Um,
rockets.
Yes, because you've had some breakthroughs
I
recently.
have. I had a major breakthrough in the water rocket portion of the what I'm working on, and that is I jumped from a 3 fin origami system for developing fins. It's a one sheet that you basically fold and just stick on the rocket. Everything's lined up. No messing and trying to hold fins on for whatever until your glue dries. None of that crap. And I just went to I developed recently a 4 fin system,
So
which
single sheet,
single sheet
and you
that
just fold it up, and it's easy to tape right to the bottle.
oh yeah, it slides right on the bottle, the exact dimensions of the bottle, and or your rocket tube for.
Right, because you're talking about 1 liter
pyrotechnics.
bottles, right?
This one's specifically made for 1 liters, but I can do any size, down to a 1 inch pyrotechnic rocket. But it's a revolutionary as far as the way fins are done,
Yeah.
because traditionally they're mounted individually,
Right.
and you
Th-
have to
right,
align
this,
them.
This allows you to slip it right on, tape it, and you're done.
Yeah, and
Right.
if
As
you-
long as you fold properly
As
and,
long
and
as
make the
you-
proper cuts where
Exactly.
necessary. Yes.
and it's all lined out.
Yes. I mean, you're still probably not going to get exactly a straight line across, because there's always going to be a little bit of play in those. They're not fixed in that kind of sense, but it's far more stable than what you had before.
Well, I mean, this gives you an idea of the stability.
Right. No, I get that. But I mean, like when you look at this, like there's a
You-
little bend on this one. That's the kind of
that-
thing I mean.
Yeah,
You're,
that particular one, it's not lined up. It's a
but that's
prototype.
okay.
But yeah,
because again, this is not meant for going to space. This is a
No.
project for children.
this is this is a project for children and up through college age and what have you.
Right. But the whole point is to make it more uniform
It's-
and stable to achieve the higher, faster flight times.
Well,
And
but the key to this is we're taking the frustration.
that's heavier than I thought. But you've
Yeah.
taped that.
That one's taped.
Yeah.
but it's actually
And that's multiple layers. Yeah.
That's got two additional
Yeah.
inside to stabilize the fins.
Yeah.
But
I like that though.
oh, thank you. But it's one of those things of the whole system is designed to take the frustration
Yeah.
and the unpredictability out of it,
Right.
introduce the science again.
The
and-
teacher doesn't have to do it for every single student.
No.
The students really could
No.
do this themselves.
Well, I
under
mean,
some supervision.
my granddaughter at 3
Yeah.
built her first rocket.
Yeah.
And she built that. The hardest part's always been the cutting it out part. The
Yeah.
folding, it's relatively simple because it doesn't have to be exact.
Right.
Uh,
Obviously, the more exact you
the more
can be,
exact
but it doesn't. But it still works.
you could put fins on one of these sideways, and it's still going up in the air,
Right.
and the kids are still going to be excited about it. The idea with this is, when we were growing up, we had things like the Apollo missions. We
Yeah.
had, then the space shuttles and all of that. And there's nothing inspiring people really, or exciting kids and individuals about, science, technology, engineering, mathematics.
Blue
Yeah.
Origin.
Blue Origin, yeah, okay, yeah.
That's a glorified airplane ride.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't begrudge them going. I mean,
No,
have
no.
fun.
I mean,
it's your
if I-
money.
it's your
Do
If
money.
I had a
whatever.
few $100 million, I would do it.
Yeah, I'd
but
probably
don't
do it
pretend
too.
you're an astronaut.
No.
For
Right.
But,
No.
11
you know,
minutes,
have
you're,
fun.
you're a tourist.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things of, and to be fair, high end mathematics, high end physics, all this sort of stuff is hard to get people excited about.
It is.
You can't TikTok about physics.
Exactly.
Well, you can, but I don't know how many people will
Yeah,
watch,
in 10
but-
seconds, you know.
But,
you
I
just
mean-
But you know
can't
what?
do it all.
We're at the point where I
Watch this.
think
E equals MC
science
squared.
and math and those kinds of things have stratified into layers
Yeah.
because of technology.
Mhm.
So you've got your Sheldon Coopers
Mhm.
who are at the theoretical level
Yeah.
where the real breakthroughs are theorized.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got you got your Leonard Hofstadter, who is your experimental
Yeah.
physicist, and he's designing the experiments that prove the theories and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like
Gen
they're
X
not
is-
doing all this
yeah.
stuff by hand.
No.
They've got I'm sure that especially for the theoretical guys and doing the math, they're still doing whiteboards because
Oh, yeah.
you work that stuff out on the go like that, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
fine. But as far as making it practical,
Yeah.
it's especially today, we expect either an app or
Yes.
something we can order, something, which is
Mhm.
why your off the shelf approach to
Yeah.
this is great.
Well,
And I think that's important because you don't necessarily have to have a big background in it
no.
to participate.
No.
Now, it still doesn't help necessarily move things forward in terms of technology or what have you, but it opens up an interest perhaps, and
Yes.
that's important.
It is. And the thing is, this can be unlike things like regular rockets,
Yeah.
where you've got pyrotechnics, they're hazmat, they're a fire hazard.
Right.
You can't launch them in the inner cities.
Right.
You can't launch them in a classroom. You
You probably shouldn't launch
obviously-
yours in a classroom either.
No, actually, mine's designed for. We can also do. It's a modular system, so we can support a number of different things like soda straw rockets, paper rockets, all this sort of stuff in
See,
a
now if we
classroom.
wanted a straw or a pencil stuck into the sound tiles, we
We
just
did
did it
it ourselves.
ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. As
But if
opposed
you
to
needed
lot,
to, you could take all the kids to the gym,
we could take
and
we
you
could
Right,
could, you
right.
could
to the
still
gym.
get a lift off of
But it-
60 feet or
yes,
something, and
but it-
and not hurt the
Yes,
the
You
but
could
it's,
launch
it's
vertically.
not. It's not like that. It's we can take and do the actual science. We can
Yeah.
do fin development. We can do aerodynamic development,
Well, I remember,
pressures.
I think it was 5th grade, maybe 6th grade.
Mhm.
The science teacher, I think it was Mr. Crable, Krebill, and actually connected with him on Facebook several years ago. But he was a great teacher. He's one of those guys that liked to do experiments with the kids.
Yes.
And he did a whole thing, and it's the same kind of thing you're talking about.
Mhm.
A very low budget.
Yeah.
So the project was doing what you were just talking about with the aerodynamics testing. We did paper planes,
Yes.
and
can
we
do that, too.
experimented with all kinds of different things to produce different results. Like
Uh-huh.
doing the standard triangle.
Mhm.
Yep.
Doing the rectangle where you only fold the front,
Mhm.
folding the wings, making them bigger, all the different things you can do.
Yeah.
And like creating flaps that like one side you flip up a little section, the other one you flip down,
Mhm.
and you start getting a spiral, and all these different things to produce different flights.
Yep.
And it was probably the most fun that most of us have ever had in science class up to that point.
Yeah.
And that was a great thing.
Yeah.
And so, now 40 some odd years later, that still sticks with me.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the idea is I want to do that in a safe and scientific manner where we can get data. And the other thing is this goes from kindergarten students up to the college level, because you're talking about and past that for
Sure.
scientific studies, because we can launch things a mile, 2 miles into the air with the same system. You're just building on it with different modules and components,
Right.
but your base system stays.
Now, one of the things he said that struck me is like, well, that's different from us. Is safe. Because you think,
Yes.
well, how are paper airplanes unsafe?
Oh, you can make them unsafe.
Oh man! Well, first of all, you can if you fold that thing right, it's got a sharp point
It's
when
a-
it
it's a
digs
dart.
in. However, there were a few of us in that class that were experimenting with putting sharp, pointy things at the end
Mm-hmm.
to help with that aerodynamics. You know, because you look at a lot of rockets, there's that tiny little spire that comes out of them,
Yeah.
and those suckers hurt when they hit.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Because again, Gen X, we don't do anything safe.
Yeah.
on this point, you know, I think it's time for a dad joke regarding the paper airplanes. You know, I was making one the other day, and I folded it and balanced it perfectly, and I threw it, and it just started hovering in there. It didn't go left, didn't go right, didn't go forward, didn't go up and down. And then I realized, oh, it's just stationary.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Like it. Yes.
So on that note, let's conclude bourbon break.
Yes, is the bourbons we chose. We all enjoyed very much.
Oh, yes.
So this Rebel Cask Strength I mentioned, we've had that on the show before. I don't drink it very often, but I really should because I really do like it. It's one I think it was about a $45 bottle.
Yeah.
120 proof at 45 a bottle. That's
Not
pretty
bad.
good. That's pretty good.
So give us that quote again, sir.
So the quote itself by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. We must always change, renew, rejuvenate ourselves. Otherwise, we harden.
and this,
And
I get why you picked that because
Yeah.
this is, launching a podcast and challenging each other and
Yes.
becoming
Yes.
writers and rocket scientists and we're changing, we're renewing, we're rejuvenating our
Well, yeah.
intellectual stimuli here.
absolutely. And that
I-
has been, whether we have been explicit about it or not, this is from, I don't want to say everybody because that is patently false. But for a lot of people, this is their experience of life. They just don't even realize they're doing it because they're doing it on small scales.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily intentional about it.
But there are a lot of people.
But there are a lot of people who are
who
intentional. yeah.
who don't change though.
Right, and there are a lot of people that-
there are a lot of people who stagnate.
they
They
out
stagnate,
there,
or
they're not changing. They're not renewing.
I don't always like for some it is stagnation, but for some it's just this is my niche,
Yes,
and I'm happy with it,
and that's fine.
and that is fine. There is nothing wrong with that because
Mm-hmm.
the world takes. We need people that are that steady and that unchanging
Yeah.
and happy to be that way. Not because we're looking for drones, but because honestly, those are the people that go about their lives making sure that the rest of us, have power on and
Yeah.
that really grease the wheels of society that don't get enough credit for that.
Yeah.
And yet there are still those that are like us, achieving,
Yeah.
working to do things better and what have you, that are also doing that. But I think, people that are like that are more important than they get credit for.
Even people that stay where they are, they
Yes.
still need to continually redevelop and improve themselves.
Well,
You know, I personally think that coming together with you group of men, I consider you all my Proverbs 27 men, that iron sharpens iron. You make me a better version of myself.
Yeah.
And
Well, dude, that's why you're here, is to help get us better.
Yes.
I think we all improve.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I
you're
mean-
keeping me from becoming a total jackass. So I appreciate you.
I'm not sure
brother.
we've done
Yeah, we haven't done that.
Well,
No, it could be much worse.
oh yeah,
It
we
could be
we
much
can
worse.
all be
Oh,
much
yeah.
worse.
So I
But,
appreciate.
I mean,
Andre.
it's like, well, take the Imperatrix and I. We've been married 35 years. We've been together 38 or so.
Astounding.
Yeah, I know. But
on her part.
there is a reason why we go to therapy, couples therapy, every week. And the reason for that is we don't want to stagnate. We want to reinvent our marriage. We want to continually make it better.
Sure.
And that's one of the things we do to help with that.
Sure. That's not the only way.
No, that's not the only way.
That is your
That's
way.
one of our ways of doing it. We do a
Right.
number of other different things.
Sure.
But
And that's one of the things about that I think we need to drive home here. And I don't mean to
Yeah.
co-opt your
No.
your thing here, but that the like when we talked about success, just as nobody can define success for you,
yes,
how you go about becoming better, becoming the person you were meant to
exactly.
be, is there's a multitude of ways to get there,
Mhm.
right? and some of those ways may end in failure. I mean, a lot of the ways will, you know, because that's the whole point of trial and error. That's how you figure out what works. You know, the rocket system is a perfect example of that. You know, with all the iterations that you've gone through, you could have given, you know, some people would have given up years ago.
Well, and I've been doing it for 20-something years.
Right.
So
being willing to step out there, take the risks.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whether it be writing for the first time, doing that, you know, Francis submitting his work.
Oh, yeah.
It's very brave.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know, you know, he might not have done that without us in the background, encouraging him, because, you know, it is a big step. I'm not saying he's a coward. It's just a lot of times, we get stuck in our own head.
It's a huge exposure,
positive,
of your inner self.
Positive encouragement of other individuals in their goals, even if, you know, they're going to fail at different things and what have you. That's fine. You're trying, and we believe in you as a human being.
The whole thing about renewing and rejuvenating.
Yeah.
To me, that is the. That's what you do when you need to pick yourself up.
Exactly.
And figure out what works better. And, you know, as Martin said, you know, stepping out, taking a risk, doing this podcast, that's one of those things. Partially, you know, as a joke, we joked about this is our excuse to get together and drink bourbon once a month.
Yeah.
We don't need
But there's a lot of, I don't think we realized how much of our inner selves we are putting out there until we started doing it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of our inner emotional stuff.
Oh,
comes out here, and guess what? It's on the internet forever.
Well, you know, when I said this is our group therapy, I wasn't kidding.
No, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, we get together as clergy for our 3 parish cluster, and we did it when the pastor was at my old parishes, and I've said it many times, and the pastors that don't do this with their deacons and their guys in formation, whether priestly or diaconal, are doing themselves, their deacons, and their people a disservice, because it's important that everybody has a group where they can be themselves, right? Because as Brother Andre knows very well, and as Francis knows, we especially have a public persona.
Oh, yes.
As well as a private persona.
Oh, yes.
Now, ideally, they would be the same thing, but we know they're not.
No. Priest, not like in the movies.
No, not like in the movies.
So Robert, there was a phrase, though, that you used there a moment ago that I want to ask you about again.
Okay. I love it when I get asked questions.
And see if I get somewhere close. Something about you're looking to be your best self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that again?
Best version of yourself, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, to me, that's you hear that in a lot of current motivational talks and what have you. The best version of yourself. I don't necessarily like the best version of yourself as much from a thought process way.
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
From a leadership and a corporate personal dynamics, you know, you're supposed to be your best self, not your shadow self.
Right.
That stuff there. So that's not really what I'm.
Right. But the best, being the best person you can be, the best version of yourself, however you want to put that, or the person you were meant to be.
Yeah.
There's lots of.
The person you were meant to be. That's what you said.
Did I? Okay.
Yes. That's what you used a moment ago.
Okay. I honestly I don't remember saying it that particular way, but I probably did. So that being that person you were meant to be, that has a lot of connotations that some people will take one way and others will take another. Some people might take it as, well, this is my destiny. I have to do this.
Yeah.
To me, it's this is my potential.
Yeah.
I need to do this.
Yeah. See, and
I think that's
part of my thing. Again, we talked about Camus. We talked about absurdism. We talked about what that opened my eyes to. I don't know what I'm meant to be. I don't know what my best self is.
Sure.
But I sure am enjoying
finding it.
the
You're
the
exploring.
exploring, the seeking,
Mhm.
the stretching.
To seek, to strive, to understand.
Yeah, you know,
It is in the
being
sea-
in the arena a little bit. If you want to throw a little
Explore brave new
Roosevelt,
worlds.
you know, but it's the intellectual stretching that we do here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that joy of writing where it's just me. It's just
Mhm,
me,
mhm,
and
mhm.
everything about this is me,
Mhm.
and it's so meaningful. Again, no matter what happens with it, it might be total garbage. It might never
Well,
get published.
Even
who
if it's garbage
cares?
now, we can fix it.
Yeah. But you know, I'm thinking at some point, yeah, we'll probably get it published in some manner or another, and it'll be
Mhm.
fun. But the process was much more important than that
Sure.
because it was great. It was fun. I proved to myself that I could do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that meant a lot too.
A corollary to this quote, again, it's one of those cliches you see on bumper stickers and what have you.
Mhm.
A lot of people take it negatively, but I do not.
Kind of like those snake and otters bumper stickers we find on the Amish buggies.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
The road to success is always under construction.
Mhm.
Now, I always have loved that quote. Our friend in Michigan, when he first heard it, because I saw it on a little sign. I used to have that in, like a little desk
Mhm.
plaque
Yeah.
thing. It struck him as negative, as you know,
Well-
there's always obstacles in the way.
That or the
To-
fact that in Michigan the roads are always having
That's
to be
true. In
worked
Michigan,
on.
the roads are always under construction.
And same as here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's worse up there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it's much-
Oh, way worse. But to me, that's just a reminder that you got to work at it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
And that
you could be
nothing-
done, but then there's always another project to take on.
Yes,
Yes.
there's always another step forward.
Another,
Not a step back, a step forward.
another challenge, another
Yes,
thing that
yes.
you could try.
Right. Because honestly, if I ever accomplished absolutely every single thing I wanted to do and I had nothing else, that'd be damn boring.
Yeah, that'd be boring.
Well,
you got to think of something new to try and do.
I
Right.
think success is being on the road that is always under construction.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Very
we
good, Brother
are
Andre.
as people
Are always under construction.
are always
Oh,
under
yes.
construction.
And
you
if
know?
we're not, we're hardening and dying.
Exactly.
Yep.
Mhm.
The only people that are not
Man.
are those that are rotting away in the ground.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As the Imperator once said about Colonel Sanders, is that you're talking about, because I did some temp work at KFC years ago, and I think this is where it first came up. You know, the Colonel is a rotting corpse at the time.
But you see, he wasn't a success until he was what?
In his 60s.
Yeah,
yeah.
60,
Yes.
65 years old or
Yeah,
something. is
he was
when
on
they-
Social Security when he started.
Yeah, when it all started to
Mhm.
franchise out and use his image, he
Yep.
was in his 60s. So
Yeah.
talk about somebody who, revolutionized themselves as a senior
Mhm.
citizen.
Grandma Moses, she didn't pick up a paintbrush until I think in her 60s.
Right. So, that's not entirely different here.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We at a time when we still have energy, such as it is, and
What
ability.
little of that there is.
Yeah. Which is true. Life can be draining. As Martin well knows,
Oh yeah.
it's hard for you to muster that energy.
Mhm.
And maybe if you worked from home, you'd have more
Yeah.
energy to do it because
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the problems you deal with.
Yeah, that commute would go
Well,
away.
yeah.
that and that soul sucking place that you go to every day to work.
Well, and
Well, the soul sucking would probably still happen because he'd still have to take those calls.
yeah,
He'd just be sitting at home in his underwear doing it.
Yeah.
the
if that.
Yeah, I mean, it commute and all day long and get home and okay, and then I'm hungry and do whatever we got to do around the house, and then it's
Yep.
by then
Uh-huh.
it's 7:30, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
well, crud. Like I said, I got about enough mental stuff left to go through Facebook and see if anybody's doing anything interesting.
But
And
you know what?
that's about it.
Tell you what, I'm not saying Facebook should be banned for those who are creatives, but damn, we got to stay off of social media.
Speaking of soul sucking,
Yes. Not because it's inherently bad, but it is inherently a distraction
It's brain
because it
numbing.
is designed
mm-hmm.
to be a distraction.
it's like casinos.
Yes.
It's designed to
And-
draw on your attention.
It is so easy. I mean, now there's a term for it, doom scrolling.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I think the doom is not necessarily because you're scrolling through all the bad stuff. It's just
Mm-hmm.
because you are scrolling your way to your own doom. Is the way I look at it. And again, it's not that I don't do it either. but I recognize, I really need to stay off of this because it is not a good thing. It is a time waster. Is there's very little, because I mean, if you look at probably 95% of your feed at any one time is stuff you have not actually signed up to follow, that you are not following a group. If they're either ads or suggested things because the algorithm thinks you might like this. Never mind all the stuff that people that you are actually following post.
Yeah.
You hardly ever see that
You
stuff.
never
But
see
you
it.
see, but those algorithms lead to confirmation bias in people,
Yeah.
because if you look at one if you look at one viewpoint on something, the next thing you know, everything you see is based off of what you looked at prior and building on those things, and it turns people into raving lunatics.
Yeah, it's a self-reinforcing prophecy.
It is.
I must throw the algorithm for a loop because I look at so many diverse opinions.
You think you do, but I bet you that algorithm still has you figured out.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's smart enough because,
It has figured out I'm Roman Catholic.
oh, well, that's good.
Well, that's a bit obvious.
Not necessarily. I bet there's a lot of Catholics on Facebook you wouldn't know are Catholic.
Yeah, well, but if you get more Catholic friends or what have you over the course of time,
Joining the Roman Catholic Deacons group is probably a good.
that's a hint.
That's a hint. Yeah.
Just a slight one.
So, anyways, the whole point of today
Mm-hmm.
with this, it was kind of an unintentional two-parter, so it kind of worked
Yeah.
out this way. Talking about that background that we came of age in, characterized by a lot of John Hughes' work. And then also the other half of that is that drive that we all had to
Seeking, exploring,
seeking, and
changing,
exploring, and changing, renewing ourselves.
doing new things. Yep.
It was, and partially because new things are always happening. Society from say 1900 to 1960, the biggest difference was indoor plumbing for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
electricity,
Yeah.
which is life changing. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it just doesn't.
Merry Christmas, shitter's full.
Yeah, exactly.
Things just
And
other technologies just did not.
I mean, television was huge, radio
Yeah,
was huge.
You know,
Yes.
I'm not saying those are not, because they absolutely are.
the idea of immediacy, the immediacy
Yes.
of technology is what's really changed since the 1980s.
Yes,
So-
yes.
Hi,
Um,
buddy.
And Emer's, so the grand dog just came downstairs, and of course he's got to say hello to the guys.
Yeah.
Um,
So I've just come to a realization that's kind of grabbed me here by the
we don't know what's next.
We don't know what's next. Without Francis here, we don't know what's next. So we're just going to leave it open ended.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's see.
We haven't looked at our.
Join us
our-
for the next episode. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, well, it's already built in, but
Same
let's see.
same otter time, same otter channel.
Snake Time Otter Channel.
That's
I-
right.
I-
Snake-
yeah.
Oddly enough, folks, we actually do have data on the back end as far as planning this stuff.
Oh yeah. So episode next time is a what if episode.
What
It
if?
is what if the Allies reject the German call for armistice in World War One. So
Wow.
Oh,
I must have been
my.
asleep when this was added because it's a World War One thing.
Well,
But no, actually, I'm okay with that because it's been a long time since we've really done a whole lot of World
okay,
War One stuff.
we'll put that down as the provisional next episode.
Well, we may not have had.
But we
World
may
War
change
II.
our mind.
Yeah, we
That's
may
true.
change our mind.
Yeah, so it maybe that,
It's
maybe not.
provisional.
Next time we'll be at Studio A.
Oh yes,
That's going to be
yes,
awesome.
that's
Looking
right.
forward to that.
Oh, I didn't realize we had Renaissance art coming up. I'm
That'll
guessing
be
that's going to
terrific.
be a Robert thing.
That'll be a Robert
Mhm.
captaincy.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, Napoleon the Rise. I'm guessing that'll be
that'll
a
be
Francis.
Francis. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a lot of guys. Oh, and Napoleon the Fall. So that's also a Francis.
Francis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
It
have
was
some, I
a,
think
it
we
was a
have some-
shortfall.
Yeah. Well, that's true. We got some really good stuff
What
coming
most-
up here. Yeah, obviously every other episode is a code of honor, but we've got
And I know we want to continue with directors. We're going to talk.
we will get
We
Sam
will get to
Peckinpah.
Sam Peckinpah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We do want to get Stanley Kubrick in at some
I
point.
can't believe we haven't done
I
Kubrick.
know we want. We need
We've
to do
talked about
Kubrick.
his stuff so often.
His stuff is so weird.
Yeah.
It is. We have the Age of Reason coming up in July,
Ooh.
1600s to the 1800s. That has got to be a Francis.
That's
thing.
a Francis. That's his.
Renaissance art, the two Napoleon. We got a History's douchebag coming up later this year.
Okay.
Randolph Hearst and Leopold of Belgium. Oh my gosh,
Ooh.
Leopold! He
What
is
a-
like
what a
he is
jackleg.
quintessential. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I got a Howard Hawks, and I'm kind of looking forward to Howard Hawks.
Howard Hawks would be a good director one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I know there's a lot. He did a lot with the 30s and 40s. He did a lot of Chucks, didn't he? Chuck Heston's,
no, John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Howard Hawks.
Okay.
And
I think
John
it might
Wayne.
be blasphemous to
how
call
about-
him Chuck Heston.
How about we do something like Russ Meyer?
You know, okay.
What did he do?
Maybe.
Russ Meyer?
Is it
Did a
too early to do the
huge,
philosophy of
huge
Russian
number of
I don't
thought?
pay attention to the directors that often.
Oh, no. He did all of the sensationalist
He's the kind of
sexcapades.
the surf
kinda thing.
Nazi.
No. He did things like Valley Beneath the Dolls.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, all that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, yeah.
That,
so-
or we could also do blaxploitation films of the 70s.
That's not
That's
a
a
bad topic.
huge. That's a huge.
Because then we get to talk about
thing.
Pam Grier, who
Pam
is
Grier is
she's so
awesome.
awesome.
Yep.
But I think the absolute worst film on those things would be Dolomite. You actually saw the mic in the scene still, hanging down and things. It was horrible, but
Right.
it's fun.
So next episode, listeners, provisionally is what if the Allies rejected the armistice call
Mhm.
in 1918?
Right.
So be with us and find out if we go through with that or not.
I'm sorry, but that just cracks me up because we've never hedged so much about what the next episode
But
is
without
going to be.
Francis here, we're hedging like bitches.
Well, I mean, it's in it's in our schedule, so
yeah.
the question is whether or not we change our mind between now and
yeah, we've thrown the
Schedules
schedule
are
out
meant to be
before.
And
changed.
then you thought this was Sam Peckinpah's edition.
Well, it was still on the
last episode.
schedule, but we had announced it last.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right. So we are going to be doing that provisionally, and we're going to be recording at Brother Andre's that episode. So see you next time, listeners. We hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your morning commute. And every fifth Friday, we drop a special Hoopajube episode. Spread the word we are on all the major platforms, and leave us a review. That helps others find us. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com. Join us next time, same snake time, same otter channel.